All right, to give JP enough time, I want to turn it straight over to East Bay Community Energy's JP Ross, who's going to talk about East Bay Community Energy solar and storage for resilience.
Thanks, Jennifer. Good afternoon and good morning, late morning. So I always like to start with a question. Who here has heard of East Bay Community Energy? Hey, packed crowd, good job, thank you for that. You're not representative of the public, unfortunately. Right now, about 27% of people think they've heard of EBCE, so that's better than it was 6 months ago, but we still have a ways to go. But so I'll let this slide speak for itself. I think to this audience, the important thing is we're serving over 500,000 accounts, and that's actually growing. We have now 3 more cities, the city of Pleasanton, the city of Newark, that are in Alameda County that have both voted to join East Bay Community Energy Service as of beginning of 2021, and then the city of Tracy as well. So San Joaquin County city is joining. Those 3 cities will add about 900 gigawatt hours of load, so about 15% to the load that we're serving as of 2021. So we're really excited to add those cities in and include them in the programmatic framework that we're rolling out across all of our service territory. So as we think about the big picture and what's happening in California, there's obviously a large movement towards more renewables through SB 100, as well as increased electrification through our EV targets. It's really interesting to think about what does that look like from a load serving entity's perspective. What are we going to have to do? What are the resources that we are going to have to procure in order to meet those targets? And the amount of resource that we have to procure will be highly dependent on what we do to integrate the renewable resources that we have, that are solar and wind, and the load that we have, which is much flatter than that. So this picture is really the inverse of the duck curve, right? When all that sun is generating, the load goes down, and then it ramps really quickly in the afternoon. And the amount of solar, which today is quite cheap, right? We are now procuring new solar and even new solar and storage contracts for less than $25 a megawatt hour. So it's less than 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour that we are able to buy 20-year solar for. That's fantastic. It's record breaking. We're really excited to get as much of it as we can, but it only comes on during the day. So how we integrate those resources, those renewable resources, is incredibly important. There was a question earlier to one of the panelists, the CC panelists, about vehicles and how do we account for vehicle storage in this future. When we look at the amount of vehicles that are going to be coming online, the proportion that we expect to be available or purchased in Alameda County as part of California's 1.5 million vehicle target by 2025, which is like 5 years away, it's about 86,000 vehicles. 86,000 EVs is about 14 gigawatts of capacity in in vehicle batteries. We're 1,200 megawatt peaking LSE. That's over 10 times our peak load in batteries driving around. Only 10% of those have to be plugged in at any one period of time in order to essentially meet our peak capacity. So that's really fascinating, right? How do we account for that? Do we want to build a ton of storage, stationary storage, at the same time that we have all this mobile storage driving around? We got to figure that out in 5 years to think about UL, think about battery backing into the grid, think about all of these integration challenges. 5 years is like no time at all. So we have to start thinking about those types of things today, starting with vehicles and vehicle warranties and manufacturers and how they are going to be open to and allow for these vehicles to serve multiple purposes. But that storage piece and how we go out and utilize the resources that we are going to have available to us in order to make sure we don't have to really overbuy solar. The thing that struck me in this graph, in this chart, and the forecast from E3 is that the difference between 40 gigawatts of new solar and 270 gigawatts of new solar in order to meet our SB 100 targets is a huge, huge difference and very costly. There's a lot of costs going into our grid right now for grid hardening, for PSPS events. We have to overbuy because we're not integrating that's going to cost us a lot, and increased rates will really slow down electrification. So on to the hottest topic, our PSPS events. So this is a graph that EBCE put together from the first outage that was 35,000 customers. About 1,000 of those were our medical baseline customers. So medical baseline are customers who are on a particular rate with PG&E in order to avoid being disconnected because they are medically dependent on electricity service. So having 1,000 of our medically dependent customers turned off for a few days is a real challenge we have to work through. But the interesting thing here is, or one interesting thing here is the different colors are actually representing customers who either were turned off and we were told by PG&E they were going to be turned off, which was red. There were also a lot of customers in green that we were told they were going to be turned off, but they weren't. And then there were a bunch of customers in yellow who we were not told they were going to be turned off, but they were. So the control of the system right now is somewhat suspect. And so we need to get messaging better, work with PG&E to work to understand their system more and how they're going to be turning people off, so that, especially with like medical baseline customers, they are made aware when they're going to lose a critical resource. And it's on us then to think about how we can work with our customers to increase resiliency in light of the uncertainty around the grid. The second event was actually 50,000 customers, so it was even more than this. So another kind of big picture issue that we are working with is resource adequacy. So resource adequacy, which is kind of been described as an insurance product, it's the physical capacity that we as a load serving entity have to contract for in order to make sure that there's energy production availability online when we need it. So it's one thing to just get a kilowatt hour of energy, but as we saw from the solar graph, that only shows up during the day. And since we're serving load, we have to make sure that those kilowatt hours can show up when we actually need them. And resource adequacy is the mechanism that we use to do that. Now we have about 1 gigawatt and 1,000 megawatts of resource adequacy requirements on us as an LLC. And overall, in Northern California, there's a large reduction in resource adequacy that's coming on over the next 10 years. 12 gigawatts of resource adequacy. We will need to bring that online because we are phasing out power plants, gas plants, but also cooling plants, as well as Diablo Canyon, as well as the PUC is creating rules around imports that are restricting our ability to bring resource adequacy into the state. And we also have a lot of surrounding states that are passing their own renewable portfolio standards and want their own resource adequacy. And so imports are kind of on the decline for a couple of reasons. So, big picture, there is a lot of great renewable energy and a lot of low cost renewables and a big trajectory towards storage and adding storage into the market. And the ability of load serving entities to serve that is challenged. So what do we do about that? So one thing that we recently issued with 3 other LSEs, so East Bay Community Energy, Peninsula Clean Energy, serving San Mateo County, Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which is Santa Clara County, and then Silicon Valley Power, City of Santa Clara, took over, it's about 1 million accounts in the Bay Area. We joined and issued an RFP for resilience and resource adequacy. So we are going to the market, I don't really like that term, but we're going to the market and asking for bids from providers who can bring us distributed new solar and storage or new standalone storage, which provides resilience to the end customer, commercial and residential customers, and then aggregates up that storage and sells us the product of resource adequacy. So we issued that on Tuesday, and we're really excited to kind of go out as a regional body and procure this resource. The cities that are not participating are on the bottom, but thankfully Pleasanton, Newark, and Tracy will be able to participate this because this is a 2-year program. We're asking for bids to come in such that we can deliver resource adequacy in both 2020 and 2021. So we really want to expand the market for distributed renewables and also test how we can use these resources to meet our needs, as well as providing resilience for our customers. There was not a coincidence that we issued this in the end of October. It's been my life for the last 2.5 months, because back in July, August, we knew that these DSPS events were going to happen, and we wanted to use the increased awareness and concern that our customers have for resilience to try to launch this program to some PR, which we got. We actually did our PR event at Fremont Fire Station 6, which was fantastic. We got a lot of PR about it, and now the real work starts in getting these proposals back in. We have an existing project right now with Sunrun called the Oakland Clean Energy Initiative. That's 500 kilowatts of RA, so we're kind of taking that project and building off of it in a much grander scale. And some of the program elements are each of the CCAs are planning on procuring a minimum of 10 megawatts of resource adequacy from residential and commercial facilities. Silicon Valley Power is going after 2.7 megawatts, so that's 32.7 megawatts of resource adequacy, which is actually likely much more battery storage that is installed. So because of the rules of resource adequacy kind of limits how much of the battery capacity you get to count towards resource adequacy. So that 32 megawatts of resource adequacy is probably more like 40 to 50 megawatts of battery storage that's installed across our residential and commercial buildings, and we expect that to be about 6,000 homes and hundreds of businesses. We are targeting our disadvantaged communities and medical baseline customers and care fair customers, as well as ensuring that these are in our service territory with kind of local workforce development requirements. One interesting thing about this is we've also provided anonymized commercial customer data out to the providers so they can evaluate what the load curves look like across about 5% of our customers to start. And we combine that with a Google sunroof analysis, so we're providing the rooftop solar potential of all those buildings. So providing a lot of data to help the bidders evaluate what the pricing of this product would look like. We have pulled out municipal facilities from this first round because we are in the process now of evaluating our municipal critical facilities for solar and storage for resilience through a Bay Area Quality Management District grant. We didn't want to conflate those two things, and that grant finishes in March. And so the plan is to kind of take our municipal facilities and wrap them up for a follow-on solicitation that will go out next spring. So apologies for the delay there, but we think that that's a better mechanism to get good bids for our municipal facilities. And there's also a big challenge around municipal facilities, which is so many of our existing municipal facilities have solar on PPAs, and opening up those PPAs to put storage into those PPAs is actually very complicated. So we'll be issuing an RFI in January to understand how we can solve that problem. And we want that information so that we can go forward with a really robust solicitation for resource adequacy and resilience for our municipal facilities. So one of the most important things for this is how do we go and get new customers? So we're really asking the proposers to come back to us with a proposal on what's the best way that working with the CCA and the private sector company, how do we go and enroll new customers, new residential customers, new commercial customers, customers with existing solar, and use that as a way to elevate the CCA as a provider of good service in the market, as well as enroll these customers and bring them online by September of 2020 and September of 2021, which really, those two dates really sync up with when we as a load serving entity need to file our resource adequacy filing. So really trying to make this look like a legitimate resource adequacy procurement activity, in addition to the resilience that we're providing to our customers. And making sure that the providers have a good understanding of how they're balancing all these values. So there's the retail values to the customer, or retail savings, and demand charge savings. There's the value to the local entity, resource adequacy, and wholesale price kind of mitigation and exposure. We're asking these batteries to do a lot of things. And there's also, the resilience. So how do you keep enough energy in the battery so that when the grid goes down, the customer has backup power? So those are 5 things that have to be balanced, and that's going to be a challenge. So we want to understand how the bidders are planning to do that and how they're planning to reflect that back to customers or to potential customers, because normal folks, even us, don't really understand how this is going to work, and so that has to be really clearly stated to customers in order to sell this program and enroll them. And at the end of the day, we will be providing ongoing payments on a monthly basis for the term of the program, so 10 years or so. So whatever payment that we are providing ends up lowering the cost of the end customer. So it's another revenue stream that they get to account for, just like bill savings, demand charge savings, which are financial, or reliability savings, which are somewhat less quantifiable but still have high value. So our ability to do that allows more customers to participate. And we're really excited to kind of see how this thing lands. So I think I'll leave it at that and open it up for questions.
And we only have time for like one.
Hi, JP. Thank you. I'm really, this is the second time I've heard this presentation. I'm really excited about it. I have sort of a curveball question that's for you and kind of everybody in the room, tying a lot of what we've heard today together, from the life cycle question about batteries to the end of life question, looking at resilience more broadly, really looking at sustainability here. As a sustainability person, I'm very interested in not creating new problems for people in our communities, for our communities writ large. And there's a lot that we don't know, but there's a lot that we know is kind of scary. We just got a presentation about the hazardous materials. You can't have more than a certain amount of hazardous materials, and combustible materials, and combustible liquids. And what do we do with these batteries at the end of their lives? And where are the materials mined? And who is mining them? And all these kinds of questions. And we're looking at putting batteries in high fire risk areas, like the Oakland Hills, where a lot of people can afford batteries, but areas that are very, very susceptible to fire. I'm in Oakland, by the way, Shannon Hirschfield Gold, Sustainability for the City of Oakland. For those of you who may not know, Oakland is working on this project called the Eco Block. That is looking at a full square block where we're going to be putting in a DC backbone and shared storage for this entire block. And it's a pretty audacious project that involves things like completely master metering this little community and completely changing the city's zoning codes to enable this kind of thing. But you get a huge economy of scale, and at that scale, what we're looking at for the storage is a flywheel, where you don't have all of those, scarier issues that batteries have. So I know there are a lot of people here, those of us in the Building Decarbonization Coalition and such, where we're looking at how do we ensure that the refrigerants, for example, and all the heat pumps that we're going to be putting in are not going to be accelerating climate change because of the high global warming potential refrigerants that are being used. So I'm wanting to really encourage everybody in here to be taking a step back, and as we're really racing forward on the storage stuff, which is so critical, using opportunities like what JP was talking about to think about redoing the way we do things. Are there ways that we as sustainability professionals in our cities can remake our zoning laws and things like that so that we can have more options than just chemical batteries in our buildings? Are there ways that we can do this storage and do this grid resiliency in a way that is more sustainable and safer? And I think that, this opportunity here is a very specific opportunity for cities to, kind of zoom out and look at those more audacious solutions and look at how can we change our laws, how can we change our practices as usual to bring in those new solutions. So I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that or just it can stand and comment.
Yeah, for us in this case, to answer the lithium ion element of that, we're technology agnostic. We're asking for storage solutions, and we'll see what comes back from that. But I think there's a broader question there of how do we address some of the more systemic issues around the environmental consequences of our energy use, and that's a much bigger question.
So I heard a number of about 6,000 in residential, and assuming that's behind the meter, do you have kind of a picture of how that would look with PG&E as far as getting that scale set up with the agreements and all that has to take place?
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the residential impacts of the distribution grid. That's 2,000 per LSE, so the 2,000 battery systems across our 500,000 residential accounts is still a pretty small proportion. I think when you're thinking about PG&E impacts at the distribution level, your commercial installations are probably more of a challenge in isolated areas where we might have transformer limitations, but certainly as we look to scale electrification across the distribution and transmission grid, there's going to have to be a significant amount of investment in order to support that as we look at whole blocks becoming electrified. Now, with integration, that second slide I showed, that integration piece is both an opportunity to mitigate kind of the generation procurement obligations that we have. I think storage also presents an opportunity to mitigate its transmission and distribution, and specifically the distribution impacts. And I'm starting that conversation with PG&E's asset owners right now to say, as we are pushing as hard as we are for electrification and solar plus storage, how do we make sure that we're in coordination with PG&E as they're thinking about distribution and transmission planning, so that we know what are the opportunities there where we can sync our programs up with their distribution planning and understand how we can mitigate some of those costs. Because as I said, if we just keep piling costs onto the grid and our electricity rates, then we will dramatically slow down electrification. If it's not cheaper to drive a battery electric car than it is to drive a gas car, you're just not going to have people buying EVs. And that's, we're actually not that far from that right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we give a round of applause actually for all our fabulous speakers today? Thank you, and thanks for staying a few minutes extra. I really appreciate the interest and enthusiasm. Raise your hand if you learned something new today. All right, great. I hope those are things that you can take back to your work and apply in your cities as well. We have a lot of resources offered, and there will be a follow-up email with all of the presentations, but you may have other resources that you could share with us that might be of use and interest to others. So if you do, please do send a reply and share this with us. I have 4 last things. Number 1, I want to thank the speakers. I also want to thank the forum committee that helped to put this together. So Karen from Bayren, Edgar and Rosie from Frontier, Jeffrey on my team as well, and then the committee that meets. It takes a little bit of work to put this together, but I thought it came off well, and I think it was of value. So thank you to all of those folks for their efforts too. And I want to thank you for coming. We had kind of not everyone made it who registered, but we did have a good turnout, and it was nice to have it here at a place in San Leandro, the Zero Net Energy Center focus. So that's number 1 is thank yous. Number 2 is please fill out your survey. We actually sent you 2 emails. Just do the second one, the one that came right at noon today. So it's all ready for you to fill out. You can fill it out freely if you'd like. The third thing is just install a heat pump water heater in your home sometime soon. In the next few years, you'll need one. So, and then the last thing is, just attend some day round forums in 2020. Well, I don't know yet what the topics will be, but if you found this valuable, I think you'll enjoy those too. So please come back. I think that's it. Thank you so much.